We are focusing on freedom, and really transformation is right at the heart of what allows us to be free, stay free, and grow in our freedom. I couldn't have, if I were choosing what song would be best for today, I couldn't have done better, and I thank Brannis for bringing that to us. So let's begin with a happy Independence Day early, unless you're planning to come to our Wednesday night service, and then we will wish you a happy Independence Day on Independence Day. So, and we are having a Wednesday night service, so just a little bit of a plug there. Such a great thing to be in this country and to be able to celebrate independence. It's such a wonderful gift that we have. You know, our military, our soldiers have fought for it, our founding fathers worked to create it. And throughout the years, it's been our challenge to keep this independence, this freedom alive in our country. And we celebrate it, and we are grateful for it, and we know that we have work to do to keep it very much part of our lives, part of our country, right? It's not like once you have it, you get to sit back and say, great, we're done. You know, we need to be vigilant and be willing to transform when we need to transform, and to treasure it, to guard it. So today I want to talk about what are some of the keys to the freedom that we have and that we experience. And I picked 3 that I thought were important. It's not like they are the only ones. There's no master list that I was pulling from. So these are just things that I thought were worthy to talk about. Before we begin, though, freedom has many definitions, and these are a few. One is an exemption from external control. My parents lived in a country that was taken over by a foreign power, so that external control was very vivid and prominent, and lives changed. Many people died. The freedom to live as they lived went away completely. And we don't think about that too often because we tend to feel pretty safe from that here in this country, but nevertheless, it's still something we need not take for granted. Freedom is also the state of not being enslaved or imprisoned. And we have a history of learning to do better, you know, learning to allow more and more people to enjoy the freedom that is rightfully theirs. And we have work to do still in this area. Freedom is also the power to choose, to speak, to think, to live our lives as we are led to live our lives. And in this way, we are so blessed. We are so blessed, and we are grateful. We are grateful to all the people who came before us that allow us today to enjoy that, to treasure it. But freedom is also the freedom from being enslaved or imprisoned by fear, by doubt, by anger. How many people have felt imprisoned by their own fears at times? Yeah. So we all know what that is. Or our anger. We can get angry and we can get locked into this energy that eats us from the inside out. And that's an imprisonment of its own kind. We can be imprisoned by our old wounds, by the story of what happened when we got hurt. And when we're imprisoned by that, we don't move beyond that to a new way of being. We can get imprisoned by our negative beliefs, by our limiting beliefs, by our what ifs. What if something goes wrong? I can't go here because What if something bad happens? I might really want to do this, but what if? You know? Or I'm not able to, I'm too limited, I'm too small, I'm too inexperienced. Whatever messages we give, those negative limiting messages, imprison us and they keep us small. And anything but feeling free when we give in to them. We can be imprisoned by race consciousness, and race consciousness is a term that Charles Fillmore used for our cultural consciousness, for the way of thinking that's just popular in the culture. And often it's limiting. But also we can think of some of the racial issues that are coming up in our country now, and we can become imprisoned by our biases, by our limiting beliefs when it comes to race or ethnicity or varying backgrounds. We say in this community we honor our diversity. And yet even then sometimes we have an undercurrent of biases or prejudices that we're not even aware of. So it is ours to become aware and to transform all of that, to transform the limiting cultural consciousness to a consciousness that embraces truth. We can be imprisoned or enslaved by the opinions of other people. One of our wonderful teachers, Wayne Dyer, always used to say we should be independent of the good opinion of others, right? Yeah. How easy it is to get crushed or stopped by the opinion of others. I can't do that because of what people might think or what they do think. So freedom involves being committed, being diligent, being willing to continuously transform to claim our freedom. But it's worth it. It is so worth it because our freedom means our spirit can express and that we can be all that we are called to be, all that we are meant to be. So our freedom is breaking free of those chains, whether they're internal or external. And the 3 keys we're talking about, those are the 3 keys in the corner. I added that so everyone could understand what we're doing, okay? All right. So the 3 keys are your thoughts, your heart, and your actions. And there are many more, but those are the 3 we're talking about. When I was in the Caribbean, Bob Marley and his music were so much a part of my life, so I like some of the things he's had to say. And one of the things we are called to do in order to be free, to claim our freedom, is to change our thoughts and to change them over and over because we have a tendency to fall back into that limiting thinking. Bob Marley said, "Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds." In Unity, there is a method for changing our thoughts and freeing ourselves. It's been around a long time. It was offered to us by Emmett Fox, who is a New Thought teacher. He was a contemporary of Charles Fillmore. And he wrote a little pamphlet. It was a little tiny pamphlet, 5 pages long, called The Golden Key. And the Golden Key basically had one message and one message only, and he developed it a little bit. And his message was, when you're facing a difficulty, when something is troubling you, when something is holding you back or scaring you, stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. So there's a family feud that comes up, and that so-and-so has done what he or she always does, and you feel really, really upset, and in your mind you keep going over and over and over what happened. So Emmett Fox would say, stop thinking about it and think about God instead. And it doesn't have to be fancy, high philosophy type thinking. You could simply say God, 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 or whatever name for God feels right to you. Ram Dass used to say Ram, Ram, Ram. He wrote about that. Or if spirit is a word that you use for the name of God, you can repeat that name. Divine Mother, truth, light, whatever calls to you. Or you might think about thoughts about God. Things like God is love. Our prayer chaplain Roland has been teaching me these last few weeks that the only truth I need to know is God is love. And so if he had a moment where something was holding him back, all he would have to do is say, God is love, God is love, God is love. And then later on, if this stuff would come back, if those disturbing thoughts come back, the moment you notice them, you replace them with the thought of God. Apparently, there are testimonials of wonderful things happening. It's worth a try. What have you got to lose? Once we shift into that consciousness of God presence or divine presence, we no longer feel troubled. We no longer feel in those internal chains. We feel the infinite possibilities that are the truth of our being. So changing your thoughts. Unity has put out a little pamphlet. It's available in the bookstore right now, called The Golden Key, about this very powerful principle. They included what Emmett Fox wrote, and then they included writings from some other Unity leaders. So it's well worth checking it out. There's another similar practice that comes from Hawaii called Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono. I have trouble pronouncing this, I'm sorry. But it's also similar, and it's a little bit more heartfelt. So it's a process of changing our thoughts, but it also opens our hearts as we do it. And it's a practice of replacing disturbing thoughts, upsetting thoughts, troubling thoughts and feelings with these words: I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And just repeating those words over and over and over again. If you go online, there's a lot of articles about this. There are books written about it. And it is based on an ancient Hawaiian spiritual practice. Dr. Hugh Len is one of the people who teaches this practice, and he is known for having brought about healing for many, many people using this practice. There are two stories in particular, one involving disabled children, but the second story is the one that I've heard more often. Apparently there was a state hospital in Hawaii that housed primarily people labeled criminally insane. And many different doctors and professionals had tried working with these people, and no progress seemed to be made at all. So Dr. Hugh Len was given that job as a physician to care for these people and treat them. And what he did, and it was a large number, in my mind 500 keeps coming up, but I might be wrong, but it was a large number of people. It was in a state facility, and it was for the criminally insane. What he did is he took the charts of all the people. He never once met with them, but he held each person's chart, and he did the Ho'oponopono practice. He would say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. And he did it over and over again, and each and every person got better and was released from the hospital and was successfully able to continue their lives. Read about it. There's a lot of documentation for it. So it's a powerful practice, and like the golden key, it changes the thinking, but it opens the heart at the same time. And if you try doing this practice, what you come to learn is what you're really saying is, I'm sorry to yourself. Please forgive me to yourself. Thank you to yourself. And I love you to yourself. And it seems kind of strange that it would work to heal others as you're really working on healing yourself, but not really. Everything we've been saying the last several weeks is based on the truth that we are one. You know, we are energetic vibrations, we are spirit, and there are no boundaries when you're in the realm of spirit. We are one. And if I do this deep healing work, absolutely, if we are one, then you can heal, right? So, keys to freedom. When we do this, when we change our thoughts, when we open our hearts, we become free and we free the people around us. Reverend Ken Daigle also has a story about changing thoughts and opening hearts. He's one of the authors in this little booklet, and I just wanted to share with you. The background that he gives is in the 1980s, many of his friends and one family member were diagnosed with either being HIV positive or diagnosed with AIDS. And in the 1980s, that was basically considered to be a death sentence. Culturally, there was no hope. And what he wrote about that is he realized in the process he also had gotten diagnosed with being HIV positive. And he said it brought about changes and realizations in him. And he realized, and these are his words, I had been withholding love from the church, from the government, from the drug companies, from my family, and most hurtfully, from myself. In the midst of that crisis, I found that my healing was to give love. And this is more than, 30 years later? He is an active, vibrant leader at a church in San Francisco. He's a Unity minister. He's on the board of Unity Village. He's a high energy, wonderfully alive, filled with zeal minister. So this worked. It worked in amazing ways, and what his process was changing his thinking and opening his heart. And this is then true for all of us. And that leads us into the third key. We change our thoughts, we open our hearts, and we choose our actions. Nelson Mandela, when he was released from prison, said, "For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances freedom of others." So if we are truly honest with ourselves on a spiritual level, if we truly embrace the truth that we are one, there is no such thing as I get to be free and you don't. There is no such thing if part of our family is not free, then there is a call to action. Just like if we ourselves are feeling bound in chains, that's a call to action, that we change our thoughts and open our hearts. But it's not just true, for each of us individually. I was so glad to hear that about 15 people from our community showed up last Saturday at the event downtown, supporting the children, supporting the reunification of the children that had crossed the border and were taken from their families. And this was in support of reunifying those families so that they could be free, so that they could heal. And so step by step, as we claim our own freedom, as we are vigilant about protecting our own freedom, as we are grateful to those who have given us our freedom, we are then in a position to choose actions that promote freedom for those around us. I was at Unity Village a couple weeks ago, and there was an emphasis on serving the community and stepping out into the community and being present as unity in the community, promoting that which we know is truth, promoting freedom, promoting the truth that we are one, standing for love. Someone in the community said to me this last week, it would be nice if we had someone in this community who could organize people to step forward and make a stand on some of these issues. And I totally agree. So if that speaks to any of you, come talk to me. I'll support you in it. We don't do politics. I don't see it that it's wise to necessarily support candidates, because that gets into fighting, but we can support love, we can support freedom, we can support families, we can support the things that we hold true and dear and love. That is how we as a country, we as a people, we as unity transform and claim and treasure our freedom. Namaste. I'm going to put this back because Rumi's worth mentioning. Rumi says, you've escaped the cage, your wings are clipped, now fly. And that's how we fly, by doing what is ours to do.